My first question is like, why Japan? Did you move there at like a later stage, or were you sort of constantly visiting?
So, do you believe in this romantic concept of previous lives?
I think I'm open to it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm open to it.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same. I like the idea that I've had previous lives, and I'm sort of aligned with reincarnation. So
Okay. Because I know there is also like one concept from quantum physics. It's like you can explain it, how it works. But, I'm a woman and I like to believe in like romantic things.
Mm.
So, my journey with Asia actually started when I was 18, maybe 17 even. And I used to travel a lot because my main job is a modeling. And from childhood, because originally I'm from Poland, but from childhood, I felt something that I have to go out from that country. And okay, first I used to travel all around the Europe. Then also I had a chance to go to States for a bit. But wherever I go, I always kind of feel attraction to Asian places, and even like where I when I stay somewhere. For example, I used to live in Milan, and even it's like so many amazing food places there. I always go to Chinese, or there's like small Chinatown there. So I was like, okay, I got the option to go to Asia for the first time, and I was like, yeah, it sounds scary a bit because like many stories about Asia that it's dirty or something, and I felt first time like I'm arriving home, even in the airplane, it was super super like cozy feeling, like here. And since then I decided to stay. I traveled all around like Taiwan, then Korea, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, like all the main cities of Asia. And I arrived to Japan, and you cannot imagine, I had so many deja vus from my first trip. So I kept coming back because I just felt like, oh my God, it's something. Even like, comparing to other places and standard of living, here is not the best. I mean, it's super safe country. People are lovely, but when you live here as a foreigner, there are many obstacles, like you wouldn't experience in other countries. Anyway, I decided to stay, but the info I want to share with you is that um, I have philosophy that when you're stuck in one place and you kind of stop the movement in your life, there is some kind of blockage. So after all these years, when so many big changes in the world happened, like all this pandemic and war and stuff, I decided to pack my stuff and leave to Thailand. So now, like in my room, there is like full of boxes and luggages. But yeah, I decided that it's a good thing to do, to move
and
again.
was it hard to adapt to Asia, because I'm guessing you didn't speak the language and you're sort of maybe by yourself and out where you don't know anything? How did you deal with that?
So from the first time, I felt like super okay with everything. And actually, the thing about Asia is like, of course, we look different than most of Asian people, right? So you can do whatever, and you're gonna be treated like some crazy person or alien. Depends on the country. Like, after my jobs, for example, I used to come back by subway with my half face green. And in China, whatever you do, if your face is half green or covered with glitter, or you just randomly sitting in a train, they gonna take a pictures of you just because you're white. So yeah, this is China. Yeah, in Japan, for example, like I feel kind of think that here they treat foreigners like babies. If you want to speak about some serious topic, they gonna listen to you because like it's a polite thing to listen to others. But on the other hand, they not gonna treat you serious most of the cases. Yeah, so Asia feels super cool because you can just feel free. You can do whatever. I mean, any country, but here it's like easier to not to listen to your ego that tells you, okay, maybe you should stop because people are just staring at you. Here, like whatever you're gonna do, they gonna stare anyway.
Well, me and Joel both like the idea of living in a different country, and I think we're sort of both planning on it briefly. I did like the idea of Japan, but I think I'd stick out a bit too much. But I do love the culture. Like I just saying, I don't know if I want to be photographed everywhere, and laughed at. But I do think Japanese culture is the best culture in the world, personally.
Usually, from people from West, if they didn't try living here for a long time, they have a little kind of misconception about Japan sometimes. Depends on you if you go like deep into the culture and study a lot. But even like most of the books, like, you know, this Ikigai or something, it's kind of different thing from just being here and living here.
So you traveled around to these many countries and many regions over a period of time. Is it your work that allowed you to do that? Or was there a time where you worked to save up the money to then go traveling? Or is a lot of your work online? Tell me a little bit about that. And then maybe a little bit about when you go to a new place, how do you settle in and kind of integrate yourself into that culture as best you can?
Mm-hmm. So my job allows me to do that because usually I search for model agency, which is based in a country that I would like to go to. Before, when I was younger, I used to work with modeling agency based in my country. But after I decided to manage it by myself because it's like less stress, more money, and it's like just very convenient. And how I adjust, so I find the things that I enjoy and that are needed in my life. And I kind of place those things in the countries I go to. So, for example, I love dark roast coffee, so I search for the coffee shop nearby. I need a place to practice yoga. So yeah, because I'm a yoga teacher as well. So sometimes I teach a private or online classes as well. And what else? I need some green spots just to walk around, like park or something. And in any city, like even some Chinese city, which is super far away from everything, like Hangzhou, for example, you can find those.
Yeah, so basically I play wheelchair basketball, and there's a chance that next season, which will be from next September next year, I could go and play professionally, but there isn't a professional league in England, in this country. So I would have to go to either like Germany, Spain, Italy, Greece, or France. I think Turkey have a paid league as well. So, and also I'm at university right now, but I'm not really enjoying it. It doesn't really fulfill me like I thought it would. So there's a chance, I think there's a high chance that I'll go out to some European country and just have a little bit of an adventure for a couple of years and see what happens.
That's cool. I mean, traveling is always good. I believe that, you can go to many universities and study for 10 years, 20 years, but you never study as much as when you travel.
That's it. I feel like even though like I'm learning stuff, I don't feel like I'm really experiencing life's rich tapestry, as they say. You know, I'm just kind of sat in a room learning theories from a guy in a suit. Whereas I think I'd learn more about myself and what I want if I just go out somewhere completely different and meet new people and try and figure it out from there.
I have my favorite designer, and I was really, really lucky, and I'm so grateful that I could work with him many times. His name is Yoji Yamamoto, and one time I listened to his interview, and he told amazing words, just like, okay, don't look on your phone, don't look on your books, just go there and check by yourself, because this is how you experience the world, and this is how you study, actually. I love him so much.
Yeah, there's only so much you can gain from theory, I guess. You've just got to go and experience it and throw yourself in, take that leap of faith. Like.
Yes, exactly.
Because traveling is a leap of faith. So is it when you travel, you sort of learn about yourself, but then you also learn about stuff that you can actually apply to your life?
Yeah, so about myself, there are many challenges sometimes. It's not like always colorful and stuff. So depends what you do, and depends on the schedule and on the day. Like, my job is unpredictable at all. Sometimes, like, I'm still sleeping, and you get a text, okay, you have to be in this place to see one client in 10 minutes. So no, I'm like super trained, like I can get ready in 5 minutes and go out and just like even have a coffee. It's like sounds impossible, but yeah, this kind of job trains you a lot. But also about traveling, yeah, you get I got it kind of naturally, but as you observe how people react to you, you can also adjust your habits. Like, for example, you wouldn't walk with like expensive looking outfit and pretty bag or like huge camera in Cambodia when you're alone in like city where actually there is not much foreigners. So if I plan, for example, to walk somewhere in some area that is considered not to be so safe, I just wear like plain t-shirts, some pants, and very small bag. So I'm not kind of attracting the attention. Yeah, and even like talking to people, seeing their habits, it's amazing. And also the funniest thing is how West is perceiving Asia. Like, for example, Korea, right? It's like all about skincare. Like, they're crazy about skincare, and they must live in such a healthy way because they're so beautiful. And Koreans, like from my observations, they drink until 9 a.m. Like super strong alcohol, and they know nothing about skincare. I mean, they know some stuff, but most of them, they're not following these like 10 steps or something. And in West, it's such a, how to say, like, just making money from some Asian stuff, which is not Asian at all. It's just funny.
Wait, they drink till 9 a.m.
Yeah. It's normal.
That's ridiculous.
But I think you're right. I think if we only live in one place or one country, we can get stuck in like the norms of that place, and also get stuck in like how our culture views the world, which isn't necessarily, and in most cases probably isn't, how the world actually is. Like me and Jacob, from living in England all our lives, we have this idea about what the rest of the world is actually like. But I think when we go there in person, we'll realize that probably isn't true.
Yes, and also, like adjusting a little bit. Like, it's super hard sometimes because our ego tells us what we used to know from childhood. Like, for example, eating bread for breakfast is proper thing to do. But in Asia, they eat rice for breakfast. And sometimes, like, for example, you go somewhere with friends or you stay in somebody's place or something, you're gonna eat rice for breakfast because it's just like something to experience. You're not gonna be like, no, I don't eat rice for breakfast, Or also some cultural things like for example, in Japan, the guys, they not gonna give up the seat in a train, even if like, you know, in Europe, I find it common that when lady stays with heavy bags, like some guy's gonna just stand up, oh, why don't you have a seat? Maybe because I'm from Eastern Europe, but like, or when you're carrying super heavy luggage, suitcase, and there are stairs. So usually some guy gonna come and like, do you need help? And here is like, no, it's super neutral. Yeah, and I could get a little bit like angry about it, but I know it's just the culture. Yeah.
I know people that have like lived their whole lives and not left England, and to me that's like, you've missed out. You haven't seen the world because England's not the world.
Mate, I know people who have lived their whole lives within a 10-mile radius of where they were born. Like
in Brixton.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
And you know the thing also about traveling and moving, it's like, I also mean like energetic wise, because like imagine you're laying in a bed all day, you're gonna feel bad and you're not gonna achieve many things if you're just laying in your bed and watching TV, right? But if you go outside and have a walk in the sun, you like see some tree, and then you get some idea about I don't know, making some company that is producing oils from tree or something. And it's the same with traveling. Like if you're too long in one space, in one country, you're not gonna get like so many ideas. I mean, you can, but less than when you travel.
And similarly to that, I remember hearing about this scientific study they did where they found when people go and have new experiences, like novel experiences that kind of scare them and make them anxious to a degree, but then they kind of push through and have that new experience, it actually turns on new genes in their DNA, which then code for new proteins, and these proteins make up who you are, right? So the conclusion was, when you experience new things, you bring more potential out of yourself. You become more than you were before. And when I heard about that, that kind of hit me in the face of like, wow, like I need to experience as much as I can to realize what potential's there, you know?
Yes. And also, you know, our brain makes us kind of scared or anxious or lazy about new things. It's just because it protects itself from the shock. Even like going inside to like ice water, you wouldn't, because like, no. And this is the brain talking to you like, no, because like I'm scared, I want to protect you. And then you go inside the ice water and you have a bliss, you know? So yeah, it's important to listen to this voice, notice, accept, but do whatever.
100%. Like I made a video about this recently talking about how the brain wants certainty, because if you were embracing uncertainty in our ancestors' time out in the wild, then you're much more liable to be killed, and you wouldn't survive and you wouldn't reproduce, and then therefore your genes wouldn't be passed on, right? So we're biologically wired to want certainty, to want the status quo. But what I argued in the video was, actually, you don't want that certainty. You don't want your life to be stable at all times. You want a balance between stability and instability, because that's where new things happen. That's where new experiences happen. And that's where you find joy and where you find meaning and stuff. So yeah, I relate to that for sure.
It's like change, and people don't like change at all.
No.
It's because it's uncomfortable and it's like uncertain, and then they don't want to take risks. But then
the way I think about it is, you've got a finite amount of time here, right? And that doesn't mean you have to go out and do everything. Like that's not possible. You don't have to constantly be moving, constantly be changing. But there's a certain amount of times where I think, right, I've got to try and make the best of this at least. If I just live out a mundane existence in the southwest of England and don't figure out who Joel Clifton is or what he's capable of, then I think I'll regret that, you know? And there's that quote we always come back to on here, which is, true hell is when who you are meets who you could have been. And that's something I think about a lot, you know?
Yes, even about, you know, every decision have some risk behind it. But also one interesting thing I can tell you about Japan, like healthcare here. Oh my God, it's just like you go to one doctor, for example, I don't know, dentist, and they want you to calm many times, and usually they're just proposing the painkillers, not to heal the problem. Like, for example, like when I used to go to dentist in Europe, I just got one injection and they heal like 4 teeth at one time, and then you didn't need to come in like 1 year or something, because they just take a risk to hurt your body a little bit, but through this risk, the change for better can come. And here is like, no, we're not gonna make a risk. We're gonna make you even more sick with those pills, but no, we're not gonna make like, strong movement. And that's the same thing with our lives. Sometimes risk is needed. You're gonna feel like sometimes, because like you're used to some patterns in your life, but you need to take a risks in life, because if not, what you can do? It's like, yeah, it's hard, but that's how the life is.
Yeah. Have you heard? I mean, I'm sure you've heard the story of Peter Pan. Like that.
Yeah.
That's that whole idea, isn't it? Right? He is this eternal child that can fly, right? But he is so scared to grow up that he never becomes anyone, and he never is able to be in love with this girl who is actually a real human, and she grows up and becomes a woman, and he remains this fairy that just never decides to take the risk and let go of his powers as this magical kid, right? But you look at that and go, actually, that's quite sad at the end of the day, because he never gets to realize who he could have been,
Yes. So at the end, he's just unhappy. And our parents, they like on kind of how to say, like they believe that living and having a salary, living one place forever, building a house, having a baby and husband or wife, this is something that everyone should do. And then they wake up when they're like 50 years old, and they start this like excitement for life at this age. So the energy of a person who is 50 is like kind of lower than a person who is 20. So the earlier we start, the better it is.
Yeah, so you never really hear about people that are 50 who go traveling. It's because they've got all these obligations.
That's it, mate. That's how the world traps you, because they make you think that you want this mortgage or whatever. But it's like, okay, yeah, you want to own a house because that's what the society expects from you. And that's the societal metric of like, you've got your life together because you have a house. But it's like, that mortgage constrains where you can live in the world and how much money you have. And that's why they say what you own eventually ends up owning you.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
Like, you sacrifice freedom for comfort and social recognition. And it's like, hold on, that's not a good deal. Like, yeah, at one point I do want to have a house, but I want to be at a point where it won't restrict me from what I want to do. Like, the most important metric for me is my life an adventure? And if it's not, then I'm not ready to stop,
Yes. And also about this, like people on their 50s, we can hear like, okay, this person quit a job for a huge company and now he's opening his new business or something like that. But sometimes, like, this is a good story, but sometimes people just wake up and they kind of don't know what to do. And they start like, drinking or leaving their families or something, just because they realize that, for example, 50 years, they've been living the same year. I mean, 1 year for 50 times, same way. And it's just making them sad and kind of, like they lost their lives or something.
And that's it. Like
So
that's exactly where that idea of the midlife crisis comes from. Like, we have this idea that you get to a point in your life when you realize you've gone the wrong way. And it's like, that should be a sign to everyone else of like, no, that's not what you want. Like, and I also think the scary thing about getting to that age is you, as things stand now with healthcare and stuff, you are in the second half of your life. Like, you are closer to your death than you are your birth. At the end of the day, like, you're past the halfway point, so you can't go back now. It's like, yeah, that's where time really is running out. So I think that smacks people in the face at some point, and it's hard to realize that when you're younger like us.
Yeah, but my dad was like 50 was the worst one.
Yeah, because it is, isn't it? It's like, damn, not a lot of people live to 100. Like, I'm past the halfway point now. you know?
And then people start using age as an excuse.
That's it. That's another lie that the world tells you, man. Like, that's it.
Yes, but also the thing to mention about here is like when we observe the elderly in our families, or like older friends, or even not older friends, but someone who is like trapped in reality, and some, these voices in the head that this is good, this is bad, we can kind of, because like, we came to the point of some kind of spiritual things and self-development and stuff. So our ego usually can tell us, okay, why don't we convince those people just to join us and just to, to change their lives and stuff, especially parents, because they're usually the closest people to us, or some friends. But it's very important to plant the seed and, like, I don't know, send some books or something, but not to get like angry or stressed about their choices. It's super important, and it feels like relief, like just super free. Like, okay, I can convince and tell about it many, many times. They not gonna accept my decisions. They not gonna listen. They gonna think I'm crazy, I'm living in this age or something. But at the end, it's my life, It's not somebody else who's gonna tell me what to do, what is good or what is bad.
I can imagine like there's the sort of pull to try and keep you around from sort of parents and stuff like that. I can imagine that was pretty hard. From 18 going to Japan and be like, all right, it's going to be quite hard to see you.
Yeah, it's like this kind of guilt behind of my head, because like my family is like, now, like I'm here for a long time already, so they accept it. They always want me to be happy, and from I was like little child, they always wanted the best things for me. And like I had this feeling, okay, maybe I should also like do the good things for them. I should stay, I should open my business in Poland, or just, visit them every weekend. But actually, it's not what they want. They always, like parents, even they speak some words that sometimes can hurt you. They always want you to be happy. And I just realized, like, okay, if someone take this responsibility to become a parent, we as children, we don't have anything to give them back, because this is like their decision. They're adult people. They make decision to kind of invest their energy, their money, their time in a baby. So we have nothing to do. We can just enjoy our life, and we don't have to give anything back to our families, because it was their adult person's choice. So yeah, it's like
So you think that you've lived previous lives in Japan, right? And that was because of deja vu that you've got.
yeah. Well, I go to sushi restaurant, and I taste something that I've never tasted before, like no way. And I'm like, oh, I know that taste. What's that? Like, is it something Polish? Like you put it in a plate? No, it's like I don't know, mentaiko. You know mentaiko? It's
Right.
like cod, the eggs, the small eggs. And I don't know, like I feel like super comfortable eating that, or natto, like fermented soybeans. Like many people from like outside of Japan, they think it's super stinky, and like, because it looks really disgusting, but I love eating it. Or I walk somewhere around and I'm like, oh, I've been in that place. I feel like I used to live here or something, and it's super, super intense. Like I feel it in my body. So yeah,
That's
it's super.
interesting. Like getting constant deja vu. But why does deja vu mean that you've been there in a previous life?
So yeah, like even for example, like because I'm trying to understand why I feel that and why only, and sometimes I had it in Malaysia as well. So it must be something. And I've never went to India, and I have this thing with India as well, kind of. Like I feel super comfortable surrounded by Indian people. I like Indian food, and when I walk somewhere and I hear music, I like even Bollywood music, I feel like, oh, I remember it from somewhere. And I feel it in my body and heart, not like, using the male side of me, but more like female that is connected with feelings. And I call it deja vu, but I have no idea what's that. And it's beautiful and strange at the same time. I don't know.
No, that's interesting. Like it's like your spirit is where it needs to be. Joel, have you ever do you feel deja vu?
I can't give you a time where I say I have, in that way anyway. But to me, like I interpret it as it's kind of like you have memories of a time that you didn't even have in this life in some sense. Like maybe something from your soul or whatever, like rises to the top when you go to a place and it reminds you of that. It's interesting. But I wanted to ask, you talked like a little bit about, you mentioned like things like ego and you say that you're a yoga instructor and whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about like any kind of spiritual realizations you've maybe had when you've been going traveling, and what part does yoga maybe play in that? Because I can just tell from your vibe of what we've been talking about, you're quite self-aware potentially in these kind of things. And I want to know, what's that journey been like for you?
Oh, so like it started like I it's a long story, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so from childhood, I felt something that, especially when I was alone, that there is something more than this projection of my life. I used to stare on my palms, and I was like, "Oh my God, like, are those palms mine? And what's happening? Like, somebody's watching me." So I was like really scared when being alone. Sometimes I used to go to the forest close to my house, and just even it was super cold in winter, I used to sit close to the tree, and I felt like super, super cozy alone, and my parents were looking for me sometimes. But yeah, then in high school, I naturally lucid dream, but in high school, I started to have like some kind of visions, which were scary, like super scary. For example, I saw myself from up, like kind of felt levitating on the bed. Also, like going out of my body, like out of body experience. It came naturally. I used to see my face like in front of my face. And another thing is like I sometimes predict. Maybe it's because I have like good observation skill. So I usually predict like pregnancies, or for example, some lady came to my yoga session and immediately I felt like, oh, there is some kind of sexual abusement connected with her. And after the session, she told me about it, that, she had like somebody was trying to rape her before. So this kind of stuff. But in high school, I told about it to my parents because I was studying for my final exams. And it was super scary. Like I got the visions, even like hallucinations, like someone was grabbing my legs and stuff. It's like, it was super scary. Sleep paralysis. So my parents, of course, naturally took me to a doctor. They gave me pills. So I slept a lot and it was gone. But I came back to it before COVID, actually. Yeah, and I started to play with like manifestation, and really like magical things happened. So yeah, and since then, like 1 year before COVID, I guess, I go deeper and deeper into like spiritual stuff, self-development, connecting with my higher self. Yeah, and it's beautiful. I find it. Yeah, because like this stuff like hallucinations and like levitating and some people get it naturally, and then they are considered to be crazy or something. But I think it's like some kind of special powers. We just have to study how to manage them to help others, like predicting the future or just feeling kind of energy of another person, or what else you can do, like when someone is lost, like in a lucid dream, I believe it's possible to find someone, maybe to go to some places. Yeah, so
Really interesting. I can certainly relate to the idea of like when you were younger, when you said you had these feelings that there was something going on here in life beyond the physical that everyone else seems to just take as like, this is all there is, like, yeah, I feel that. I know people quite close to me that have similar experiences to you. I don't personally, but in terms of things like that what most people consider to be psychic, and most people would just palm off as something that's just woo-woo and unscientific and a load of crap, but I can relate and hear what you're saying because I've had personal experiences like that with people very close to me. Yeah, very interesting.
It's an interesting idea of like, well, when you're a kid, you feel like something's watching you, because I thought that. But I don't know what it was. It could be like sort of like a dead relative, which I'd think about. But I was always like trying to do good because there could be something watching me, or it could be a god. I don't know. But like in terms of it seems like only certain people have that ability of spirituality, fortune telling, stuff like that, and maybe 90% of the population doesn't, and doesn't accept it, and because it doesn't really apply to them, and they think the people are sort of weird and stuff. But really, there could be something going on there.
My opinion is like everyone can do it. Like it's just the choice. If we're gonna practice, if we're gonna focus on developing some certain skills, even like do you know Neville Goddard?
No.
Oh, you have to check him out. He's amazing, and he just make all the religions, like yoga, all the techniques, practices so easy. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. So in his books and talks, he's like a little bit old school, but he was the first person who I listened to, and I realized that all of the books connected with religions, like Quran, Bible, and stuff, they're just symbols. So in Bible, because I was raised in this religion, and I always like kind of discuss with teachers that it's not true. Like I was like heavy metal girl, so yeah, it's not super Christian thing. But I was just like listening to Goddard, and he told that Bible is full of symbols. So, for example, Jesus, he's a symbol of each human becoming kind of God, but focusing on the God in their hearts, not like believing that there is some kind of grandpa in the sky and like praying to him and stuff, but believing that if we self-develop that much, we can create a bread, walk in the water, I don't know, fire the paper with our hand, because actually it's happening. Like there was some Chinese guy who did it. Everyone can do it, and like Jesus is a symbol of that. Every book have some kind of guy like this, like Buddha, So all the religions are about it. They're symbols And it's the choice of the human if we're gonna go there or not.
That is so true. I love that you said that. It's what I've thought too, and something I've realized over the past kind of year and a half. Like, all religions that I've exposed myself to seem to be saying the same thing. They are a response to the weird complexity of being a human, right? And I think it takes someone to understand the fact that the Bible is not like every other book in that it's not stories you're supposed to think of, these things happened, right? They are symbolic. You're so right. Like, the idea of Jesus, the idea of Satan, they are just the fundamental polarity that is in the human mind and the human morality, right? All of us, we know deep down that we could be Satan, right? We all know that we could do terrible things if we let ourselves go. But we also know that we could all be godlike, and that's what Jesus is the symbol of, because we could all, like, when Jesus becomes crucified, right? They say he dies for the sins of humanity, right? We all know that in our lives, we could take on a lot of responsibility, and not only to sort ourselves out, but to help the people around us, right? And that's what Jesus did to the highest degree. He died for everybody else, right? And that is a sign that maybe the highest good that a human being can aim for is to sacrifice themselves for the betterment of other people in the world. And that's, to me, what it represents. And I think if more people were educated about religion as not these things happened, and not that a guy walked on water and turned water into wine or any of that, but this is a guidebook of how to be a good person, and it's not supposed to be taken literally, I feel like religion would be so much more accepted.
Yes, but also like some things, like for example, changing the water to wine or walking on the water, those things can happen if you really, really believe, and if you practice self-development. It's like, some parts of self-development, like people who, for example, see auras, they're on some kind of stage. But like believing that, this is all about, for example, like going to church every Sunday, or believing that the guy is gonna punish you because you did something wrong. This is like the symbol, but actually those magical things can happen if you really, really work on spiritual development. But people usually who does this kind of stuff, they don't show off. They just live somewhere in a beautiful island or something, and they know that whatever they're gonna do, they're gonna have money, they're gonna have food, they're gonna be happy just because they have this power. And the more we practice, the more beautiful the earth can become. And I believe like this kind of new earth is gonna come one day. That's what in Bible, for example, is described as like Jesus coming back to earth. But I believe this thing is a symbol of more people being into self-development. So then we don't have to, focus on material stuff. And I guess this is all about it.
Does yoga have like a spiritual side to it? Because to me, it is more. It just seems like a physical practice to stretch muscles and stuff. But is there more to it?
So originally, yoga is just meditation. What we see now in West, it was created in like the era of New Age, of the Beatles, and they made it popular in West. So actually, yoga, like real yoga, is just meditation, and physical yoga is it can help you to get into meditative state. For example, like you go and run in the forest for like 20 kilometers, and then you come back home. It's just much easier to relax, right? It's just like easier to get into the meditative state. So yoga, usually the sequences are focused on making it easier to later just sit in a silence and just focus on the inner work. Also, yoga is usually connected with some breathing practices, that are also kind of working to awake some energetic feelings. But yeah, it's like the way to get into the meditative state. It's all about yoga.
Is it Reiki method?
Reiki, you mean?
Yeah.
Reiki. Mm. So this is also another thing interesting. It's like Japanese. I mean, it was invented kind of in Japan. So basically, one guy went to the mountains, and he got some kind of feeling of connecting with this higher self, and it was like good timing because in Japan there was like huge earthquake that time in the lunchtime, so people were preparing food and they just burned their bodies. Just it was a bad timing for earthquake. And the guy he got like special power. I think it's just like power of love to his hands, like from the central channel. He got just kind of feeling that he feels ready to heal those people who were hurt during earthquake. And what is it like? What I believe, when mom prepares breakfast for you, it tastes better, right, than when you do it for yourself. It's because the meal is charged with love, with the energy of caring and just passing the love to other person. So I also do Reiki for others. You can check out. I have like I share all the info what I do on my Instagram. So Reiki session is about first like connecting with your higher self and awakening the feeling of love, or like everything which is warm and like connected to your heart. And then when some person who is coming for the healing have a problem, for example, headache, I just focus all my feelings and all my higher like connection with love, all these good emotions on the head, and I just place the palms because like Reiki is all about healing with the palms. And also it's possible to do it kind of distance online. This time I draw the person on the white paper, and I do the same thing but just from distance. And the only thing I need to ask about is the place and the name of the person. Yeah, it's something that can help with health problems, but just like kind of adjust the feeling, the healing process, enhance the feeling process. I'm sorry, my English is like not the best.
No, you're
but
great.
So and also very interesting thing is that in Japan it's kind of secret society, so it's not popular here. Like some people believe that they're gonna come to Japan and get like Reiki healing, but actually when it was like World War, US kind of came and they prohibited all spiritual and traditional practices just because propaganda and stuff. And all the Reiki things moved to states, and to like it originated in Hawaii. But what Reiki is in West is like super different thing than actually in Japan. So like as everything. So yeah, I was that lucky that I could experience the training from Japanese person. So I do it like traditional way, not Western way.
Wow. Healing is like, I wonder how it's possible. So you're able to heal someone virtually by accessing their higher self through like the power of your brain. Like, how does it sort of work?
Yeah, it's possible, of course. Like when you, for example, focus on lying to your mom that you don't want to go to school because you have painful belly, it's gonna become painful, right?
Yeah, I mean, think about it in like, you have this idea that the average person would accept, which is the placebo effect they find in science, right? When you take two groups, for example, and you want to look at how a drug affects people's blood pressure, and you give one group this new drug and you give one group a sugar pill, but you don't tell them that it's a sugar pill. The group that had the placebo thinks that they're getting this blood pressure medication, right? And therefore, a lot of the time, you see decreased blood pressure in this group. You see an effect, right? But they haven't actually taken a drug, and it's only because they believe that they're going to get a positive effect, and something therefore happens physiologically in their body. So the way I rationalize it is that you're just doing that on an extreme level. So you're like, somehow you're using energy to create that belief in that other person when they're coming to see you and work with
It's
you.
like a therapy that sort of rewires them and stuff like that.
So, it's also from Goddard, and I kind of combine Goddard and what I do when I practice Reiki. So this is the concept that, makes the life just so much easier. Okay, so you guys are part of my reality, right? And so you're part of my reality, and in my reality, you're gonna become the person who doesn't like coffee. If I start to believe like very strongly, for example, one of you like coffee and drink coffee every day. But when I really strongly start to believe that you don't like coffee, and I'm just like, oh, no, this guy, he doesn't like coffee. When he drinks coffee, he like disgusted. For example, I am the part of your reality. You believe strongly that I'm a yoga teacher. So maybe I don't drink much alcohol, right? But once you start to believe very strongly in your reality that I drink every day, I'm gonna eventually drink every day because I am the part of your reality. And with Reiki, I believe once I meet the person or I hear about the person, no, this person doesn't have headache anymore. And I strongly believe in this concept because the person who is reaching to me to get the Reiki healing is a part of my reality. So I can manage the reality of anyone just because it's like my projection.
Interesting.
I mean, not anyone, but just my reality, because like what we see around is just our reality, and it's gonna align the way we believe.
So you can change reality just by the way you think.
Of course.
I mean, that's why, Jacob, is the quote you always say back to me, is why Shakespeare said nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's what he's talking about. He's saying, and Jimmy Carr said on a podcast recently that disposition is more important than position. It doesn't really matter in most cases what you're objectively going through in your life, right? You are the observer, right? You are the center of your own universe. So the way you approach it and the energy you put out into the world does matter. Maybe it matters the most out of everything in life.
Yeah. Because what we see is what we create here. It's just natural.
I want to ask, what is... You talked about this concept of the higher self. Can you talk a bit more specifically about what that looks like to you?
It's not the angel that tells you, okay, let's work out, let's have a walk. It's the moment when during meditation, or even like when you're in nature and you feel this bliss, like you feel so full of love to every like piece of you, or to every moment, and you just realize like you can be without anything, without phone, without all those voices, and it's just quiet, and you feel so safe and so full. And from that space you can start like manifesting, you can start like deeper energy works, going places, It's just simply focusing on your heart and having like stillness and quietness in the mind. And this is something, it's just like you feel amazing and you don't need anything else. You can just be.
I find like, because I've practiced meditation reasonably consistently over the past 3 years or so, and I find there's those moments when you're focusing so much on awareness itself, like there are those split second moments where the chatter in your mind stops and you become what you're experiencing. Like the persona that I play, this Joel Clifton character that has these thoughts, these feelings, and that goes out into the world, he dissolves for a brief moment. And all I am is this like meta awareness that's aware of being aware. Like I read a book called A New Earth by a guy called Eckhart Tolle, and he talked about how what we are at our core, if we take away everything that's socially constructed and everything that you're influenced to be by your upbringing and by your genetics and all of this, what you are at your core is just pure awareness. So that's what I've interpreted what you just said there, is what you view as that higher self is when we are that pure being.
Yeah, that's, and it's really hard to get, like for me, it helps when I spend time in nature and I challenge myself not to, use a phone or something, nothing, just be in the nature. And I got kind of enlightenment, I can say, but it's just like, it was super nice feeling. I just went to the beach, like hour away from Tokyo, and I just sit it and I just say, okay, let's have fun, let's be like children, and just jump into the ocean. And I felt like every little bubble of water on my body, and I was, oh my god, it's such a joy. And I was struggling with decision where to move next, and if to move, and then I just sit it on the sand. I looked in the space, and it came like, I don't know from where. I mean, I know from my higher self, like a voice. Ada, what do you need? Like, what do you need to be happy? And I was like, okay, so some healthy food, like a fruit, warm weather, sun, some water, and just being like financially stable to travel from time to time. And then like, okay, so why you keep staying in Japan for so long? And I was like, okay, let's move to Thailand. Yeah, so from these kind of moments, like you have this quietness in your mind, and then like higher thing or something is just telling you what to do.
Yeah. I found all the greatest answers in times of difficulty and times of uncertainty have always come from within me rather than something outside. Whereas the main rhetoric that most people believe is that you should learn about how to live life from outside of you, when the reality is that you can only find that within. And it's like we had a guy on a podcast a couple of weeks ago who had this nice idea that I liked, which is that when you're born, you don't get this guidebook of how to be a person. Right? You're not given this manual by any school system, by your parents, by anyone that you know. Nothing outside of you gives you this book, right? But maybe that guidebook to how to be a person, what to do, who to be, that's probably within you, man. That's probably what the higher self is trying to communicate. And like Carl Jung is one of my favorite psychologists, and his ideas are brilliant. He has this quote that I always come back to, which is where he said, "Those who look outside dream, and those who look inside awaken." And that speaks to that idea of like, you were on that beach and you stopped all this noise from the city, all this noise from your brain. You focused on just being in that moment, feeling the sand and feeling the water, and something inside of you then awoke. And that kind of truth then kind of bubbled up from the subconscious, from the higher self, whatever you want to call it. They're all saying the same thing, I think,
Yeah. And also, like to mention, yoga gives you some techniques that are going to help you to achieve this state. I mean, it's just easier but also these moments like you can experience just by yourself. It's just like it comes with time, and not everyone is like super up to experiencing it. But through yoga and some breathing techniques, it just takes less time to get there.
That is pretty amazing to me. How you can look within yourself and then make a massive decision. But I think that's something that I'm lacking, and I think I need to look inside myself more, because the majority of decisions I make are because of something external.
This is it, Jake. We've had conversations in the past when you've said to me, like, you think that getting a Tesla will make you happy, right? But I've told you that I don't think that's true. I think you have to go and achieve that thing to realize that. Like, I can't just tell you and it changes. But I think that's what the world has told you think you want. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
maybe you want what it represents potentially. You want the status, you want the respect, right? And so does everyone at the end of the day. Like, I have my own material desires, like everyone, because that's what the human ego does. But I think we've talked about it before previously. Like, everything you really, really want, you can only find those answers by looking inside, and they're all things that the world doesn't truly value, and things that you can't measure, like peace of mind, like love, like enthusiasm. Like, you can't measure for those things, and someone can't tell you, right, this is how to get those things, right? You have to go out into the world and live and have experiences and be. And then when you experience those things, you go, okay, right, this is what brings me joy. But only then can you awaken to it. Like, no one can tell you, and achieving no goal will bring that. And that's the big lie that we're all told. Is like, okay, if you just work hard and achieve this thing and get this house, and then you'll find peace. But it's like, no, man, it's not true.
It's like when I got told by that spiritual guy that I think too much in my head and not enough in my heart.
Yeah, and I struggle with that as well. Like, I'm cursed with this, like, cognitive, like, strain that I'm always in, man, because I do think so deeply, and sometimes I do just have to let go and be like, you know what, it's going to be all right. And it's like you said, like, going into nature is where we find that. Like, on Monday this week, I went for last week Monday, I went for a walk in, like, this forest, and I got, like, lost. I was there for like 2 hours, but I wasn't even scared, because I always find, like, it sounds quite stupid, but during lockdown, with the pandemic and everything, there was this one tree where every day I used to go for a walk, and I used to hug this one eucalyptus tree that was right near my house. And as weird as this sounds for a 19-year-old boy to be saying, I remember every time I'd hug that tree, I would just get this feeling of everything's going to be all right. And I don't know where that came from. And you speak to an average person, they'll be like, mate, that's a load of bollocks, shut up. But I don't know where that was. But every time it happened, it was like a hug from the universe came back and went, Joel, this is hard right now, and you're fighting some demons, and it's difficult, but everything will be all right, And everything was all right, and still is to this day.
It's the longest way from here to here. It's so long, really, whole life to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, like, what we were talking about before. Like, when you make any decision, I tend not to analyze it. I mean, not to even tell anyone. Just, like, just doing, because there's some kind of like, even one word can make your decision slower. So it's better not to tell anyone. Just do whatever. And there's some people who get it naturally. Like, it's another topic for another podcast, but in Buddhism, they have this concept of realms of existence. And one of them is like gods. And those people are kind of always happy, like, being impressed by everything around, and just, being, and like taking life as it is, like, just living, like, smoothly and in happiness. And yeah, so those are kind of disconnected from others, and those people are, like, super, super inspiring to me, because you can see these kind of people, like they're always happy, like always ready to go somewhere, like open and yeah. So for me, it's like, wow, amazing. And I'm trying to really appreciate whatever I see around me, and like being impressed by little things. It also helps because it raises your vibrations, like just awakening this feeling of gratefulness for everything around. Like even, okay, this tree is so random, but it's so green and must be many insects on it. And just this also like helps with manifestation techniques and stuff, just raising your vibration by everyday gratefulness. Oh my God, it works. It works really.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Raising your vibration by everyday gracefulness?
So usually like people are on kind of level of like vibrating with the energy, right? So for example, like, okay, you get this voice of some complaints or something, and it's kind of like this level, but by awakening the feeling, okay, I'm so happy, like my life is beautiful, I have a place to sleep, I have a water to drink every day, and everything is just, I have amazing friends, family who supports me. So you get to the level that you would like to get while being here, by kind of getting the feeling before the physical stuff manifests. Like manifestation is all about feelings, right? So when you already feel this way right now, you're gonna get the stuff you wanna get, because it's more about the feeling, not actually the stuff. It's the same like you told about the car. It's complicated, but kind of easy.
Well, I struggle with it's all we're talking about. I struggle with finding joy in the simple things, and I want something to be moving. I don't appreciate the simple things at all, really. I just think of it sort of as they are, but it sounds like me and Joe need to start doing yoga.
But do you think, Jacob, right? Do you think that like that's one of the kind of like one of the drawbacks of being an ambitious person, is that you always have this like level where you think you want to be and that you're working towards, right? But then where you are now to where you want to be, there's this clear gap, right? And if you focus on that gap, then you have this kind of like deprivation, scarcity mindset of like, things aren't where I want them to be. Like, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not doing what I need to do. And what message is that putting out to the universe? Right?
It's a lack of present.
Yeah, because you're constantly thinking about the future, but you're also thinking about the fact you're not where you want to be. So you're potentially putting this message out to the universe of, right, I'm not, everything's not where I want it to be, and it's not sorted, right? Whereas if, yes, you can have these goals you want to get to, but it all begins with this feeling of, I'm going to get there. Like, I know that with enough time and enough persistence, it will happen. And without that feeling, if you constantly focus on the scarcity, you constantly focus on the gap, then that's what you're going to project into your reality. If we're arguing that reality is malleable, depending on what you believe and what you feel, like, you have to already believe that it's going to happen for it to happen. That is like a necessary prerequisite, right? You know?
So you believe already now that, yes, it is now. Like, so for example, you want to get a car and you imagine like what kind of feeling it's gonna awake in the future while I'm having the car already. I'm holding the keys and okay, so what kind of feeling I feel? And the feeling you have to awake now in that time, like right now. Especially it helps when you kind of awake the feeling of hugging the person you really love, and the person is congratulating you. Oh, you got the car. Yes, I got the car right now. And like, it's gonna manifest in like 3 weeks, but you really have to feel and believe and awake the feeling constantly. Like almost every day during meditation, you just awake this feeling like, oh my God, I got a car. Like, yes, feel inside of your body, jump like, you know? And then it's gonna happen like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, depends.
Maybe I need to trust the process a bit more then.
That's it, Jake. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking this about with myself as well. Like, we are the kind of people that do the things that we want, right? We're the kind of people that are going to get the things that we want, okay? So why don't we let go of the stress of whether it will happen or not? Like, why don't we just wake up each day, love the fact that we're on a journey, do the things we need to do, and get where we're going to get anyway? Like,
Yes.
it's like, it's not this egoic thing of like, I'm already great as I am. No, it's not that. It's that I'm on a journey, so I just have to like keep moving, you know, because the destination's already preset, because it's going to happen. Like, I believe it's going to happen. I believe I'm going to be the person that I see myself to be in the next 10 years. So now I just have to keep walking, man.
But what's the conclusion? Is it to like, it's not to chill on the work, is it? Like,
No, because without the work, it doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is, you can't approach the work with a scarcity mindset. You have to approach the work with I'm going to do this because it's going to happen.
wait, what do you mean scarcity mindset?
So the scarcity mindset is like thinking that there is a high chance it won't happen, you know, like,
Oh, right.
like
Okay.
that, like focusing on the deprivation, focusing on the gap between where you are and where you want to be, you know? And that's what real faith is. Real faith is knowing that you can fill that gap, you know?
And also about like work. So imagine what this kind of person that is already there, like in the reality you would like to achieve, how the person would feel at work. So, for example, super chill, grateful, smiling to everyone, just how the person would behave and feel, because feeling is the most important. So you want to be like amazing yoga teacher, for example. So how the amazing yoga teacher would feel: confident, speaking loudly, being creative, and you basically do the same job you do right now, but in the way the person from the future would do. So eventually the universe is kind of aligning more and more and more and doing this quantum jump to get you there. And it's natural.
Yeah, because the way you think and the way you project yourself does change your state.
Well, it's like you've always said to me, Jacob, act like a king to be treated like a king. That's it. They're saying the same thing as what Ada's just said there.
You're gonna believe easier. I made it super many times. I got the job for like big company, like big car company, and during my walk in Japan at that time, I just like, I see, okay, it's a beautiful evening, and okay, and then I because I love my boss, my Japanese boss, like I love her so much, and I imagined like I get a message from her: Ada, you got this job, like you're gonna travel to different prefecture and you're gonna shoot for 1 week. It's so exciting, and you get like this amount for this job, like it's amazing. And I was just like walking and like, I got this job, and I just focused so much on my heart and gratefulness and just like imagining. 2 weeks, it happened, and I got the job I wanted. I can even show you pictures if you want. But it really works. It's like,
Wait, so you imagine that you get it before you did?
I awaked the feeling of getting it right now, awaken the feeling of the stuff you want to get in the future.
Yeah, but I'm sort of scared to do that because I might get let down.
And that's it, Jacob. You've got to have the faith, man. You've got to have the faith to let go and see what happens. You know, because it might not happen.
Surely it doesn't always happen like that. Then what do you do? Just carry on?
From my perspective, right, it's not completely true. The idea that like I could think about and wish for a check to come through the post of X amount of money, right? But the way I view it is you have to, the belief is step one. Like you have to believe and feel like it's going to happen before you then put the actions in place for things to happen. Like your reality won't change if you don't believe it can. You know?
You can. I believe in this. Like it works. It's just like how the universe is gonna. It's not like cheating, but also like I wrote some books like in quantum physics how it works. But there is something like quantum jump. So one structure moves to another. like faster than it would do through hard work. And it's just because the first structure is kind of vibrating in the how to say frequency that the one super more far away is already vibrating, and that's why it's just like jumping already there. So like the check, maybe some of your grandpa didn't tell you, but he left some big property for you, and you never know about it. But because you awake the feeling, the universe aligned in the way that it happened.
Wait, you talked about quantum physics there. So you can think about something that will change the state in the future, sort of like the quantum particles do.
I mean, your current reality is gonna move to some certain point just because you started to vibrate in the same frequency that the point that is already there. Yeah.
It's also like how you can do the healing, because when a quantum particle turns, like it can change like another one. So by changing your state, you can change. No, by thinking about that person's state and applying something onto them, you can actually do that via the laws of quantum physics, right?
Yes, and also like starting to believe already and just making it obvious that the person is healthy. His or her is healthy, and that's all. And I believe that the person is healthy.
Joe, it sounds like we actually need to do yoga. No, not like thing is though, right? You do your stretching at the end of your night.
That's kind of what I mean. Some of what I do is like, I wouldn't know the names, but some of them are like yoga poses, like,
or like downwards duck.
No, like I do the corpse position for my lower back and stuff like that. I know that one, but that's about it. But like, it's that same thing. It's connected with my body, and I do feel like some meditative states, because you can't really think when you're concentrating so hard about holding this stretch, and like your body's in a bit of discomfort getting into that stretch. There's no time to like for the inner chatter.
It'd be a good night routine though. Imagine that, like, especially for you, like loads of stretching and meditation in one.
Yeah. No, I've taken a lot away from this conversation. So
yeah,
I appreciate you being here.
I'm happy to end this here. This was really good. It made me think of a lot of different ways.
Whenever, you're always welcome to text me for yoga. I do online classes as well, and we can practice.
No, I actually might know.
There you go, Jake. There you go, mate. There's an offer.
And you as well.
Well, maybe. Yeah, maybe. All right.
Ada, if people want to sort of check out a bit more about you, where should they go?
My Instagram, it's Ada Chan-des. It's just the name it's just the way how Japanese people call their younger friends. It's like Ada-chan, Jo-chan, or something. And so check out on my Instagram. You can always DM me about the classes or Reiki healing or anything. Just,
So you're like a younger child to people?
Yes.
A younger friend, sorry, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great.
Okay.